Women with insufficient vitamin D had deformed pelvises and died in childbirth. Their darker skin genes died with them. Women with slightly lighter skin, even just slightly, produced just enough vitamin D to develop normally, deliver safely, and raise children who inherited their genes. Generation after generation, the same brutal filter applied. Lighter skin survived, darker skin struggled, and yet the math never added up. If this filter was running every single generation, dark skin should have disappeared from Northern Europe within a few hundred generations. But the genetic evidence shows that as recently as 10,000 years ago, that's Cheddar Man's time, most Europeans still had dark skin. For 35,000 years, the selection pressure existed, but the skin barely changed. Why? The answer came from an unexpected direction: diet. Hunter-gatherers weren't relying solely on sunlight for vitamin D. Fatty fish, animal liver, eggs, and marine mammals are all naturally rich in vitamin D. A hunter-gatherer eating a varied diet of meat and fish could maintain adequate vitamin D levels even with dark skin, even through a northern winter, even without significant sun exposure. The melanin production didn't need to change because the diet was compensating. Then agriculture arrived, and it changed everything. Around 10,000 years ago, farming began spreading out of the Near East into Europe, and the dietary safety net vanished almost overnight. Early European farmers weren't eating fish and game anymore. They were eating wheat, barley, and grain-based porridge. But why the sudden shift? Agriculture didn't just change what people ate, it changed how they lived. Farming populations were sedentary, tied to fields that required constant labor. Hunting and fishing take time, mobility, and skill. Early farming communities were locked into grueling seasonal cycles of planting, tending, and harvesting. They couldn't afford to send people away for days-long hunting trips. Fish were a luxury for those near rivers or coasts. For inland farming communities, the diet became overwhelmingly grain-based by necessity, not choice. And grain, no matter how much of it you eat, contains virtually no vitamin D. The one backup system that had allowed dark-skinned humans to survive in low-light environments for tens of thousands of years was gone. Now the selection pressure that had always existed became acute. With no dietary backup left, vitamin D could only come from one place: the sun. And the sun was weak. The only women who could get enough UV were the ones with slightly less melanin production. Less melanin meant more UV entering the skin. More UV meant more vitamin D. More vitamin D meant bones and pelvises developing correctly. These women lived. Their darker-skinned counterparts didn't, and every surviving daughter inherited the same reduced melanin production from her mother. Generation after generation, the population's melanin levels were quietly dropping. The skin was getting lighter, not by choice, not by chance, by survival. But this process needed a catalyst. Gradual pressure alone wasn't enough to transform an entire continent. What it needed was a single mutation powerful enough to accelerate everything. And then it appeared. A copying error deep inside one cell, in a gene called SLC24A5. One letter changed out of 3 billion in the human genome. This mutation reduced melanin production by 30 to 40%. One person, somewhere in the Middle East or Southern Europe, was born noticeably lighter than everyone around them, and they were healthier for it. Within roughly 150 to 250 generations, somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 years, that single mutation had swept through European farming populations entirely. Not because of culture or preference or any conscious choice, simply because the people who carried it survived, and the people who didn't, increasingly didn't. But here is what makes this story genuinely surprising. That same mutation, SLC24A5, is almost completely absent in East Asian populations. And yet East Asians also developed lighter skin at northern latitudes. They just did it differently. East Asian populations developed lighter skin through entirely separate mutations in different genes. Different molecular pathways, same biological result. Biologists call this convergent evolution. It's the same process that gave dolphins and fish similar body shapes despite being completely unrelated animals. The environment poses a problem. Evolution finds a solution. Sometimes it finds the same solution twice, which means pale skin isn't one thing that happened once. It's a solution the human body independently invented at least twice, driven by the same equation: low UV, grain diet, vitamin D crisis, selection pressure, mutation, survival.